Yes, then let's start. So I planned like a presentation, but I think as we're just it's two of us, so we could shorten it a bit. So what I would do is we could give a short insight how I could imagine this utopia, and then we could just discuss about it. Or I'm interested in your ideas as well, as this is like an utopian future that isn't isn't here yet. Cool. So the topic is what happens after digitalization? What happens? What comes after all the companies, all the projects have the same access to resources in production and qualified people? What happens? How does a competition look like in this coming age? Of course, that will never happen because there will always be a difference between the access to resources and production facilities. But from what I believe, it'll change. Why do I do that? So currently, my name is Chris. I'm working here in Berlin. What we do in a company called Motion Lab that I co-founded. And what we do is we support teams, startups, and individuals building their ideas. It's all focused on hardware, future mobility, but what we've learned so far can also be applied to software development and also other niche markets like food or healthcare. What we've seen so far is that in a market where everyone has access or equal access to all the resources, competition changes a bit. In the past, the companies who worked with, they had lots of patents, they had contracts with suppliers that kind of secured their market leadership. But in the future, there will be lots of ways, or different ways of building parts or making products. So having contracts, having a supply chain, having patents might not keep you market leader, might not secure you against the competition at all. And so what we've seen so far is that companies that have monopolies, like big corporates, will be able to their market leader position. Oh, guys, can you please mute your microphones if not adding the conversation, please? We'll do a question and answer part after the introduction. Okay, cool. But even these big corporates with their big market access and their supply chain and whatever, they got attacked by competition. For example, the car manufacturers got attacked by Tesla. No one expected a small startup to be able to become a kind of market leader in building electric, autonomous, self-driving cars. Or WhatsApp, that kind of was the coffin nail for text messages because it was more convenient, was easy to access, it was cheaper. Or 3D printing for rapid prototyping. So, and these new technologies, they disrupted existing ecosystems easily and in a fast time. So in the future, after all resources and labor might be equally accessible to everyone, how does competition look like? How do you stay market leader in your business? And I believe you have two options, or I have two theses I would like to share and discuss. The first one is, I believe that players who innovate faster than their competition will stay ahead of the competition. They will stay market leader in their field. Currently, when you think about product development, in a big company, it takes up to 3 years to get a product to the market, from the idea to the market. In a startup, they don't have these processes that big companies have to rely on, and they can get a product to the market way faster. A good startup does it in a year, but imagine if you have an idea, for example, for a new type of desk lamp that's revolutionary, and you can get it to market in 3 months because there's an ecosystem that supports you with your idea building that lamp. And that comes to my second thesis. So far, this innovation ecosystem was only accessible by corporates because it was expensive, for example, to make molds for mass production, or it was expensive to hire experts that design stuff for you. What if this innovation process becomes democratized? So it means that everyone has access to it. If you have a good idea that's ready for the market, why shouldn't you be successful? Why isn't there any support for you that kind of lifts you off the ground, that enables you to be successful in that market? And for software, we see this ecosystem growing. In the past, for hardware, it's still very hard because building tangible prototypes is way more expensive and a lot more costful than making software. And I believe that in this post-digital time, in that maybe innovation age, having an ecosystem that enables individuals with good ideas to be or to make successful products is the key to innovation and the key to staying ahead of the competition. Meaning that if you're active in a specific field, for example, medicine or I don't know, food or mobility, finding these individuals and supporting them being successful within your own ecosystem or somehow will be the key to for your company or for your project to sustain competition and to secure your position in the market. And what needs to be done to get there? So currently, if you start a new company or if you develop a product, at least in Germany, Europe, it's really hard to get the right support. So you have to do everything yourself, from funding to I don't know. Do you have to have a license to drive a car on the street, or do you have to have a certificate to make that electronic circuit or to mass produce it? And it's really hard to get to the manufacturers because they have long-term contracts with existing big companies. And they're usually not willing to work with you as a startup, and also not building small quantities of your product because they make big money making large quantities for bigger companies. And I believe to democratize this innovation process, we have to create an ecosystem that also supports individuals, that supports everyone at their certain level of experience, and bridge the gap to make them successful in the market. For example, it can be a student who has an idea for a new product, who doesn't even know what funding they need, what type of company they have to start for having base for their product, or how to approach a big corporate who has already market access and resources they need for their product. And I believe that for software that already exists, at least in the States, that you can find support at wherever level you are at, and you can fill can get the missing puzzle pieces. But in Europe or in lots of other parts of the world, it's still underdeveloped. So my thesis is that we have to develop this ecosystem that supports even individuals to become successful product designers or product makers. And I believe this requires a change of mindset, because currently, if you think about making autonomous vehicles, you think about these big companies with billions of euros or dollars. And there are some unicorns like Tesla, for example, that made it. But there are also other really brilliant people that have equally brilliant ideas, but they currently can't work on them because they didn't even or don't even believe that it's possible for them to realize them. And that's the point where I opened the discussion. So what's your opinion on that? What do you believe? What do you think will the time look like after companies or everyone has equal access to resources? How do you think will the competition look like in such a time? Okay.
I'm not sure if
Yeah.
resources are ever going to be equal. And to be frank, I'd love to know your thoughts on that. I don't think their harmonization of access to products will equal an equality on the, I guess, economic condition for new entrepreneurs.
I think it will always be a challenge, and I believe that currently here we have one location in Berlin, and we support around 100 startups here, and usually we see what they're missing, what they're lacking to be successful, and that's usually not a lot. And usually the most important thing they're lacking is experience and the understanding that it's not that hard to be successful in their field if you have the right network or the right support in the individual stages. So yes, you're right. In equal access to resources will never be a thing. So there will always be differences, and there will always be companies that will be market leaders because of their access to resources. But I guess, for example, 10 years ago, it wasn't possible for an individual to easily manufacture parts in China. No one knew how to do it. Today, it's like I have to Google, I have to invest maybe 3-4 days, and then I find a manufacturer in China who makes my parts. 10 or 10,000 doesn't matter. And I believe in the future that will change. So it will be even easier. So currently, if you need a part, you have a 3D model, you just upload it to a platform and you press OK, you pay for it, and 10 days later, you have it in your hands without even knowing how it's made and where it was made. And I think the same will happen for talents. So Corona is like driving everyone to being like office independent. So all the talents work from home, they work from wherever, and everything is remote. And in the future, that might be the most common form of collaboration in companies we're looking towards. So how do you believe that will change the way of companies competing for leadership or for market access?
Was that a question for me?
No, for you, for everyone. So we can also like open it for all other questions. So as it's like an open discussion. Or maybe anyone else would like to share some experiences on how they currently perceive innovation processes, and how they believe that they might look in the future.
Hi, so this is Varun. I run a tech company based out of India. And thanks for the session first. So I think just before COVID crisis, we were anyways kind of moving the system to a work from anywhere kind of scenario. So I think just before it kind of struck home in India, and we've been in lockdown now for about 37, 38 days. I think all those changes, we just got lucky. It was like a hand of God. And I think we are surviving. We're a small startup. And if we hadn't made those changes at that point in time, we would be paying rent.
I'd like to be in India.
Yeah. I mean, I think this work from anywhere kind of scenario is going to have a major impact And even for larger enterprises, I think things are changing in the sense that they are getting open to the gig economy. So yeah, I think that's a change which we definitely will be looking at.
Gleich.
What are your experiences in India? How does competition between companies or how does innovation speed affect the competition between companies?
Can you clarify the question? I couldn't get that.
No, it's like in Europe, it's like currently companies are still quite sustainable if they have patents or if they have contracts with their supply chain to stay ahead of competition. But I guess currently that's changing because the companies we work with believe in that innovation speed is the key to success in the future. So, for example, currently, it takes a German company 1 year to release a new generation of a machine or a product. And imagine that could be done in 3 months. So they could evolve 4 times faster than the competition. So they could spit out new products 4 times faster than the other companies that work in the same market share. So how does it work in India?
So we have patents as well. In fact, we have patents across Europe, and I kind of know about the European scenario because I'm an ex-banker. I've worked across New York and Netherlands, and then maybe Hong Kong and Singapore as well. But to answer specifically your question, I think the Indian patent scene is kind of picking up. The government is quite serious, so I think things are changing. At the same time, what's also changing is, so you said about 3 months. I think we are launching a new product, which was just an idea which came to me, and it's a very simple kind of thing. It's to do with the travel industry and how the travel industry is going to go down during this COVID crisis, and what can be done in that industry to kind of keep the chin up. And we are launching the product. I think I'm seeing the demo today, and last Friday is when we kind of started the development.
Wow.
So yeah, the MVP is coming out, and I think another 1 week we should have the final version and be launching it. So it depends on the complexity of the product. I mean, the other product, of course, we've taken out about 13 versions, and we have a patent for that across 4 continents. And we've got large enterprise customers as well. And now we've just launched our SaaS version. So the gig is completely different. So it depends on the complexity of the product. But the innovation is quite fast here because I think geographies don't make any more sense. I'm currently using 5 SaaS-based products to kind of launch my product. And we are linking up with pretty much the economy everywhere. In fact, the key market for us is developed nations, so to say, developed. So I think, yeah, we are looking across borders, and I think that's the same for every tech company, at least.
But as I understand, it's a software-based product, right? Do
Yeah.
you have any experience with hardware-based products in India?
India, yeah, I think hardware as well is taking off. I think because of the backlash against China, I think we are, as a country, viewing the manufacturing facilities. As far as the innovation is concerned, I think there is a lot of innovation. Biotech is taking on at a very fast pace. And even for other basically hard-based products, I know like there are tons of startups. So there are college ecosystems like IITs, which are or Indian Institute of Science, which have taken on the mantle, and they are providing the resources for these robotic startups or like hardware-based startups.
What's your experience if you're working or if these companies with products or physical tangible products, is it possible for example, for a single student who has a great idea for a new type of robot, for example, to build that machine and to have a successful market entry with the current infrastructure for entrepreneurs or hardware entrepreneurs that exist in India?
It's tough. It's India. It's a different market. But for somebody who has the right idea, there are people who will come in. He might make less on that. There will be investors who will take most of the money, but it is possible. And there are ecosystems, specifically the IITs, which are renowned across the world. I think they have certain labs which are set up specifically for this.
So it means that you have to be in the right incubator or the right accelerator ecosystem to be able to work on your product as fast as possible.
Not exactly. There was this one guy who just, I mean, there are ways, right? And I think that's where the technology is kind of taking on. If you take Twitter, for example, now this guy was sitting in a small village and he designed something specifically to do with an agricultural based robot kind of gig for better irrigation. So all he did was, I think he got followed on Twitter, and then immediately he became a celebrity. His name came up, and then the government kind of picked him up and put him in an incubator, and he's being guided now by the professors from one of the IITs.
Okay, that sounds like a lucky coincidence. I mean, I don't know who of the common engineering entrepreneurs is able to become a celebrity on social media.
Yeah, it is. It is. You're right. That's why I said it's India. But people, yeah, I mean.
But maybe generating this attention in social networks is part of the future innovation as well. Maybe that's how like large groups can pick whatever they believe is important. I mean, the innovation he made seemed to be too important to many people. That's why they followed him, and he seemed to be the charismatic person to be the kind of face for the innovation he made. So maybe that's also part of the future innovation as well. So
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's yeah. But over to you.
Yeah, so I'll add it to my list of things that I believe will be important in the future, next to being able to iterate faster and develop faster. Okay, so we have 5 more minutes left. Are there any questions or any ideas on the topic currently? Okay, so yeah, thank you all for joining, and thanks for the insights from India. Yeah, I hope you all stay healthy and have like a safe time through Corona. I hope you have a nice weekend after the unconference. Thanks to the organizers for inviting me. I really enjoyed this. My second time, it's my first time on Zoom. I hope you all have interesting other talks and parts of the conference. So thank you and goodbye from Berlin, and see you next time, I hope. Bye.